Hello everyone, welcome to part 12 of Laravel Interview Question Series of 2024-25 edition, in which we have covered the Laravel 11 questions as well. Okay, so in this particular part, we are going to learn about Laravel Webhook and API interview related questions, okay, with practical. Let's start working on this one. Laravel Webhook, okay. So what is Laravel Webhook? Okay, so let's see its answer. Laravel Webhook or Webhook API helps in communication between client and the server. Client may be the website and server may be the third party. In Laravel Webhook, the server requests the client for the update. So the client provides the webhook link to the server that the server will call every time when some event occurs at their end to update the client database. See, we have done the APIs. We have understand the APIs. In APIs, the client used to update the data from time to time. Client used to run the APIs that the server provide to the client. But in webhook is the reverse of the API. In webhook, what happens in webhook? The client provides the API to the server, and server is going to call that API. Server is going to execute that API whenever there is any update at the server end. Okay, so here you can see that the server requests the client for the update. Okay, so every time if there is any update at the server end, then the API is going to run in the webhook. Okay, so webhook generally runs whenever server wants to run it. So the webhook is built by the client for the server. So this is exactly the thing that we have to understand. And so in webhook, third party sends update to the website. Okay, when a particular event occurs, like for updating stock at the website, third party or server updates the product stock to the website database via webhook every time when order is placed or stock increases or decreases from other sources. Okay, so in e-commerce website that we have built in Laravel, whenever we will do about the stock management, whenever we will handle the stock management. So what happens, like we used to communicate with the third parties softwares like the Unicommerce. So what happens, if every time whenever the stock update, then then the server calls that webhook API. Okay, so what happens, the client provides the webhook to the server, and the server runs that webhook only when there is any update. Okay, only when, if there is any update in the stock, then only server is going to call that webhook. Okay, and this is the difference with the API, because API we need to schedule some particular time, like we need to schedule it for every half an hour, like this. In that half an hour, we are going to call the server. We are going to call the means server need to respond according to the API request after every half an hour to update the database. Okay. So I hope that it's clear to you. So a separate video is available to understand webhook. Okay, so please check that. So let's see the next question. What is the difference between API and webhook? Okay, so let's see its answer. API. The API is application program interface, allows to applications to connect with each other. In API, the client requires the server for the update. See, both webhook as well as the API purpose is same for both. Purpose is to build the communication between the two things, between the two machines, between the two applications. Okay, so the purpose remain the same. Okay, and in API the client requires the server for the update. Okay, here API link is provided by the server that the client calls to update its database. So here, see, API link is provided by the server to the client to call that the client is required to call that API to update its database. So it's the responsibility of the client to run that API from time to time, so that it will able to update its database. Okay, so webhook, in the case of webhook, Webhook also helps in communication between client and server, but in Webhook, the server requests the client for the update. Okay, so in Webhook, the server requests the client for the update, but in API, the client requires the server for the update. So this is the opposite of the API. Okay, so here Webhook link is provided by the client that the server calls every time when some event occurs at their end to update the client database. Okay, so the API is going to be built by the client though, and the client is going to build that API and will provide that particular API to the server. I'm talking about the webhook. Okay, that webhook API we are going to provide to the server team, and they are going to run whenever there is some change in event. Okay, like the whenever some stock updates, then we are going to run whenever the order get placed, then we're going to run. Okay, uh, so like this the server able to update that webhook. Okay, so the separate video is available to check it, so please check in video description for this separate video. So let's see the next question. Example of REST API and Webhook API. Okay, so for updating product stock of the e-commerce website, we can either use REST API or Webhook API. In the stock Webhook API, third party or server updates the product stock in the website database every time when order is placed or stock increases or decreases from the other sources. In stock REST API, client updates the product stock in the website database at scheduled time via cron jobs. Okay, so see, both the webhook as well as the REST API, or we talk about the webhook API, both we are using. The purpose remains the same for updating the product stock or for updating anything else, and it's the communication between the two devices. But here, what happens in the stock webhook API, in the webhook API, third party updates the product stock in the website database. Okay, so see, the we required to build up the database of the e-commerce website, and we are managing the stock as well. And that stock, the webhook API, the server is going to update whenever there is any change. Okay, and that is going to be updated by the webhook. Okay, you can see that whenever there is any change and whenever order get placed or whenever stock increases or decreases, at that time the webhook API will run. Okay, so it is not like some particular time. See, it is run only when some event occurs. Okay, so but in case of REST API, like the stock REST API, the client updates the product stock in the website. So the client is going to update that REST API. Means client is going to schedule that REST API from time to time to update its database. Okay, and so it means that the webhook API is the real-time API. Okay, we can say that it is the real-time API, but the REST API is not the real-time API. It will only run whenever we will run it. Okay, it will not run whenever there is any event occurs or something. When or no, it will not run. It will run only whenever we want to run it. Okay, like we are going to schedule it to run after every half an hour, though then it is going to run it. Okay, so I hope that it's clear to you. Let's see the next question. And please, we're going to practice test REST API, webhook API, via Postman. Yeah, we are going to see. I'm going to show you the REST API. All these APIs we have done so far are the REST APIs that we have seen in the last part as well. All these are the REST API. Okay. So for updating the stock as well, we are just require some kind of the post API in which we are getting the stock and we are going to update. Okay. Yeah, we can also, if having the that kind of API, then we can easily able to update that. So see, the webhook API will look in a similar manner, but only difference is the API URL. That API is when in the case of webhook, that API is going to run by the server only when there is the change in event. Okay. So we are going to provide that API. We are going to build that API for the server, and we will provide that API to the server, and the server is going to that server. A server is the like some third party, like the Unicommerce or some other team. Okay, and that team is going to update the API only when there some event occurs. Okay, but it will remain the same. See, it will look like the same like API. Okay, so let's see the next question. So which one is better, REST API or Webhook API? So see, it clear. I think it's the basic question, and everyone must know its answer. Let's see its answer. Webhook API is better as it's the real-time API and server will call only when a particular event occurs. Okay, I have explained it earlier as well that the Webhook APIs are the real-time APIs and it only runs whenever there is whenever particular event occurs, only then it will run. So the Webhook APIs are better. Okay. And like in stock Webhook API, third party or server updates the product stock in the website database every time whenever order is placed or stock increases or decreases from other sources. Okay, so in Webhook API, it only runs whenever there some event occurs. Like in the case of order placement, it will run only when the order get placed, and in case of stock management, it runs only when there is this change in stock at the server end. Okay, at the warehouse level, when there is any change in the stock, then it's going to run so that it will keep the database same. It will keep the database sync with the third party. Okay, so Webhook API helps in saving website bandwidth and resources. Okay, so it will also save in website bandwidth as well as the resources because it runs at the real time. So it will save the website bandwidth as well as the resources. So the Webhook API is load better than the REST API. Okay. So the separate video to understand API and webhook is available in video details. Please check that. So that's all for now. I hope that this will help you to clear out the webhook as well as the API. So that's all for now, and I hope that API as well as the webhooks are clear to you. And we will bring up more Laravel interview questions that will surely help you to crack the interview. Okay, so please stay tuned for that. That's all for now. Have a nice time. Goodbye.